But I really challenged our team in the offseason to leave no doubt about the things that take no talent: effort, toughness, discipline, competitive edge, every single day to earn what you get in our organization, and having a team-first mentality, which are basically our core values of our program. And I've been really pleased with how this senior class has held our team accountable to those qualities. And I think we've had a good offseason, a good summer, and I'm looking forward to reporting on August 1st, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Coach, right here, front row to your left.
Well, you've talked to us all during the spring and the off seasons about the importance of the offense cutting down on turnovers. And while all the interceptions have not been on Jake, but when the team sees him working hard during the spring in the off season to cut down on those turnovers, does that also help to elevate his role as a leader on the team?
Well, there's no doubt about it. You know, Jake's been elected a team captain previously as his time at University of South Carolina, so obviously he is recognized as a team leader on our football team. But we improved tremendously from 2017 to 2018 offensively. Another touchdown a game, close to 100 yards a game, more plays every game, which the tempo obviously helped us. But you hit it on the head, Rick. We just, inconsistencies in taking care of the football and in the red zone. We had 53 red zone trips or 56 red zone trips. We have 13 times we come away with no points, 8 turnovers. And that's game-changing stuff. That's demoralizing for not just an offense, but an entire football team. And psychologically, unfortunately, we weren't strong enough to overcome some of that. And a lot of that youth that we had on defense had a hard time overcoming those things. So I don't think there's any question that Jake's work ethic and cleaning up some things fundamentally and footwork and those things have certainly helped him this past spring and this summer and heading into fall camp.
Coach, to your right, third row on the end.
Coach Tatum Everett, Nashville, Fox out of Nashville. I know in the SEC, and you look at your schedule, it's always a tough slate. However, when you look at this season, it seems to be a little bit more challenging at times. Was there a point in time you looked at it and said, wow, we've got it really tough this year?
No, I look at it from a standpoint of it's a great opportunity for our program to take a step forward. You want to go to a place like South Carolina, you want to coach in the Southeastern Conference to be in the limelight. And that's the opportunity that we have, and we embrace it and look forward to it. And as I told our players, there's no predictions. It's not about talking about it. It's about being about it, and that's our mentality headed in.
Coach, right here on the front row.
Will, looking at Jake, he's on the cusp of setting a lot of major passing records. I mean, fair or unfair, that win or loss always goes to the QB. How much pressure is on him to not only set those records, but to really beat some of these high-profile teams and win the quote-unquote big games?
Well, I think that if you ask Jake Bentley, and I probably could respond for him, I don't think he's overly concerned about any records. He's concerned about winning football games and concentrating on what he's got to do to help our team be successful and win games on Saturday afternoon. Now, with that being said, we're winning those games. He's playing well. And so I think they kind of work hand in hand.
Coach, on the camera, thanks.
Joe Cook, WLTX. Coach, I know you always said the goal is to get to Atlanta, and your team hasn't reached that goal in your tenure, but you also feel confident it's the best team that you have had. As a coach, how do you manage those expectations, those high goals, when you feel like you have the best talent that you've had? Well,
the expectations and the goals don't change, regardless of the season and regardless of the situation. And that's the way we approach every year. Our players in our program understand clearly defined the goals of the program every year, the expectation every year, and that's what we're striving to achieve every single year.
Here up front, Coach.
Drew Yarman, WCZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. Coach, I know he didn't go through spring practice, but Javon Kinlaw on the defensive line, what kind of factor can he be for you this year, and how key is his play going to be in the success of your defense?
Well, there's no question, and I'm really challenging Javon along with 4 other seniors defensively on our defensive line that need to have great years in order for us to have the type of year we need to have. Javon, Kier Thomas, Kobe Smith, Danny Fennell, and Dennis Warnham. Those 5 guys are quality football players and need to play well for us in order for us to play well defensively. Now, Javon is a guy that I think he's in his best shape since he's been at South Carolina. He's got a great mentality in attacking this season, and certainly he can be a very disruptive player.
Coach, right here, third row, the red shirt.
Coach, could you talk a little bit more about Jake's maturation and process he's going to go through over the last 2 years?
Well, I would probably go back to last year during the middle of the season there when he didn't play as well as he would probably have liked, and to be able to rebound and play as well as he played down the stretch certainly goes back into facing adversity, handling adversity, and then responding the right way. And I think that that's a great example of who he is as a person.
The camera bank here on the left, please.
Coach, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Jake's cleaned up the footwork among some other things. What have you seen in just his quarterback style that's grown over the last couple of years and makes you comfortable that he'll have a great senior season?
Well, I've been very comfortable from day one with Jake as far as he being a very mature guy and mature beyond his years, which I think is critical at that position for that player. But again, he positively affects people around him. He has a calm, cool demeanor. He's a great competitor. He has great toughness. He has all the intangible qualities you look for at that position. Again, I go back to the same thing. Let's do a better job of taking care of the football and making some better decisions here and there because he's played lights out in some situations, and we need to be more consistent in playing towards that.
Coach to your right, second row, second from the end.
Well, Nick was in there this morning, and he thought he recalled your first interaction with him was before a Peach Bowl practice when he had just gotten to LSU. I think you were at Valdosta then. Do you recall anything about that conversation and maybe how you sold yourself to him to get that first job at LSU?
Yeah, I do. I recall it vividly. I worked at Auburn as a graduate assistant, and Jimbo Fisher was the quarterback's coach. And I was in Atlanta, and LSU was playing Georgia Tech in the Peach Bowl. And it was their first year at LSU. And I called Jimbo to see if I could come watch the practice. I think Nick thought I was spying on the practice for Georgia Tech, typical Nick. And he approached me, and the players were still dressing. They weren't on the field yet, so he kind of walked up and introduced himself. But we started talking and just kind of hit it off, and then, told me I could stay for the entire practice and visit him when practice was over. And then about 2 months later, he had an opening on his staff, and he asked Jimbo, who was the young man that I met at the practice that day, and they brought me in for an interview the next day and offered me the job. So there's no question that things happen for a reason sometimes in life, and that certainly changed my career as far as that meeting was concerned.
Up on the camera bank in the back.
Coach Mike Uva, watch Fox, Columbia-South Carolina. You were in Florida for 4 years. This is your 4th year at South Carolina. From just a learning experience, of course, every place you go, I'm sure you took things away. But where is your mindset in comparison to what you took away from Florida, and just what have you been able to just grow as a coach and as a person? Well,
Mike, I think you live and learn as a person and as a coach day in, day out, week in, week out, month to month, year to year. You continue to, in my opinion, evaluate what you did well and what you didn't do well as a coach and the things you've got to improve on within your organization. Every place is different. And there's some similarities between Florida and South Carolina, and there's some differences between Florida and South Carolina. And that's true across the country. But I'm very comfortable where we are at South Carolina. I'm very comfortable about how we've improved the program. I'm very comfortable that after 3 years we've won more games than any staff has in South Carolina history ever. Ever's a long time. And I'm real proud of those accomplishments. Yet that being said, I'm not satisfied with where we need to be and what we need to be. And there's nobody more impatient in our program or our fan base than me. So we have a long way to go. And I think that we've done the necessary things as far as the Long Family Operations Facility, our practice facility. We're going to make $22 million improvements to Williams-Brice Stadium, which is approved by our board recently, and I appreciate them doing that. So there's a lot of positive things going on in our program right now that I'm really excited about.
To your right, Coach, against the wall.
Hey, Coach. Michael Bratton from Saturday Down South. It seemed like last season when you went up against teams that had physical, big offensive and defensive lines, a lot of time your team kind of wore down in the second half. I know on paper you guys probably have the best linemen on both sides coming into this season, but aside from just having the players, what gives you the confidence that your lines of scrimmage will hold up better next season?
Well, I think the players are the answer. And at the end of the day, we went into last season with less than 40% of our snaps that returned from 2017. And most of that was up front. It was we lost Dante Sawyer and Taylor Stallworth and Sky Moore, 3 really good football players. Uric Jones was a really good player for us as well. And going into last year, and we got exposed in week 2. We had 2 freshmen backing up inside. Now those guys are a year older, and some of the growing pains that we went through last year should be positives for us. I saw a lot of growth with some of those guys this past spring to understanding that. You know, at the end of the day, that was the situation we were in. They had to play. They knew that in the recruiting process, and they improved throughout the year. Then, unfortunately, we had some injuries, which contributed to even more young guys playing. So, again, the growing pains that we went through, I think, can be turned around to be positives for us this year.
Coach, to your left at the camera bank.
Hey, Coach. How you doing? Jacques
Good.
Doucet, WAP
Jacques,
TV.
how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Great.
Speaking about LSU's head coach right now, Ed Orgeron, he's a bit older than you, but do you see any similarities?
He's a lot older than me.
Would you say that both?
And he looks a lot older than me, too. Go ahead. You seen them things they're putting out on Twitter now?
I saw that today.
He looks a lot older than me. Steve Ensminger's offensive coordinator looks a lot older than him.
Did you do that to yourself today to try the app? And
No, I'm not an app guy.
I think I heard you say the last Star Wars you saw was Empire Strikes Back, too.
That's right, number 2.
Yep. Well, how am I going to follow this up? Just Coach Orgeron, do you see some similarities in yourself and him? Hard-nosed defensive guys, and you know he was doubted when he got that job, and it appears he's got it stabilized now.
No doubt about it. I think the world of Ed. He's a really good football coach. Obviously, there's some similarities of the defensive side of the ball. Both guys engage in attack recruiting hard. There's no doubt about it, and you know, I'm happy for him and his success. You look what the job he did at Southern Cal on an interim basis. I thought he did a fantastic job, and you know, for whatever reason they went a different direction. But he now got another opportunity here at LSU, similar to my situation, having an opportunity at South Carolina.
Up in the camera bank in the middle.
Rashad Snell, Alabama News Network in Montgomery. Coach, your in-state rival, Clemson, has become a national powerhouse, winning 2 out of the last 4 national championships. Has South Carolina kind of became like the little brother to Clemson?
No, we're not the little brother. We're not.
Yeah.
Okay? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Over here to your left, please.
John Whittle, thebigspro.com. I believe your offensive and defensive players had some shirts made for run defense and offense. What kind of brought those things on? I guess y'all didn't meet some of the goals that you wanted to last year.
Well, we haven't in 3 years running the football. You know, as far as what we want to be able to do on average per down, we haven't met what we need to do running the football wise. We haven't done as well a job of getting the ball on the perimeter with our blocking at the receiver position, tight end position, and sometimes running back position. Because I view quick screens and some of the bubbles, that's a run game stuff to me. That's not a pass. We haven't done as well defensively stopping the run or stopping the perimeter run game. And so we really challenged our players in the offseason to understand the deficiencies we've had in those areas, and that we've got to improve those areas to take the next step as a program. That's just bottom line. And we haven't really had necessarily the guy that can make a guy miss consistently at the running back position, because in our league, you're not going to block them all. At the end of the day, you got to make a guy miss. You got to run through contact. We haven't stayed healthy at the running back position either. So hopefully we can stay healthy at that position. We got to be more consistent stopping the run, and we've got to do a much better job on the perimeter in our secondary of playing the short screens.
2 last questions are going to be here on the right, 3rd row.
Will, Israel was a guy that obviously came on pretty strong last year. Just what are your expectations for him entering his sophomore season, and kind of what's the next step for his game?
Well, his most talented attribute is his work ethic. The guy works extremely hard. He attacks the all-season program the right way. So I have a high expectation for him because I know he's got high expectations for himself. And I think athletically he's what you want. He's got good length. He's got good top-end speed to finish. But again, his most talented attribute, in my opinion, is his competitive edge.
Final question right here, Coach, 2nd row.
Jeff Owens, Spurs and Feathers. Will, you mentioned earlier today that you hosted the seniors at your house. What was the initiative? What was your message to them?
Well, we do that every year, and that's not really a formal meeting. That's more of a relaxed, and I think it's important for them to see me as a father and a husband, and outside of the coaching environment, and just kind of let your hair down and enjoy yourself. And we certainly did that. We had them fishing and tubing and wakeboarding and karaoke in there. Donnell Stanley, my wife Carol, were karaoke in there late at night, and feed them a good meal, but to come out of the house and just relax. They've worked extremely hard this summer, and as I said earlier, I think they've done a really good job from an accountability standpoint of holding this team accountable to a certain standard. And it's just a small form to say thank you, and I appreciate them and what they've done. And this is a special class for me because it's the 4th year, and a lot of these guys came in when we had just won 3 games and lost to Citadel. In a coaching transition, always the uncertainties of that. And a lot of these guys, it was a leap of faith a little bit to come to South Carolina. You look at a guy like Brian Edwards, who could have gone to a lot of different schools and decided to stick with his commitment and come to South Carolina. T.J. Brunson, that was committed to another school, decided to come here. Rico Dowdle decided to come to South Carolina. Jake Bentley came early to South Carolina. Donnell Stanley was here. He's now going to be a 4-year starter. Dennis Warren was committed to another school, decided to come here. I mean, you know, the list goes on. Kier Thomas just committed to another school, decided to come to South Carolina. So a lot of these guys had a leap of faith in our staff, in our school, to come to South Carolina. So this is a special group to me.
Coach, very good. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.